Her knees hit the porch steps at 6:47 on a Saturday morning. The mower sits in the driveway. Gas can beside it. The July sun already pressing down like an iron on wet cloth. She has not had coffee yet. She has not eaten. But the grass does not care about any of that. It never does. Every single Saturday. Same ritual. Same aching back by noon. Same blistered thumb from the pull cord. Same $80 tank of gas that disappears before the month is out. And for what? To walk back inside and look out the window at a yard that will demand the exact same thing again in 7 days. 18 million women over 55 in this country do this every single week. 18 million. That number is not a statistic. That number is a sentence. Hi viewers, here's a question that needs your honest answer in the comments right now. How many hours a week does your lawn steal from you? And what would you do with that time if you got it back? Also, don't forget to click that subscribe button now before we continue. Because here is what nobody in the lawn care industry will ever say out loud. The grass was never meant to work for her. She was always meant to work for it. But somewhere, buried under 60 years of chemical marketing and suburban pressure, there are 10 plants this industry quietly erased from the American yard. Plants that spread on their own. Crowd out every weed without a single bottle of herbicide. And once they take root, they never ask for anything again. One of them releases a fragrance every time it gets stepped on. Another one thrives in total darkness where nothing else will even try. The lawn industry knows exactly which plants these are. That is precisely why they stopped selling them. Before the list begins, 2 plants need to be named because if either one gets missed, the whole reason for watching collapses. Number 3 on this list grows where traditional grass goes to die. Solid shade. Bone-dry soil under an old oak. The kind of bare patch that has been an embarrassment for 15 years. This plant does not just survive there. It blooms there. White star-shaped flowers. A mat so dense that weeds physically cannot push through it. University extension programs across the Northeast have documented its spread rate at 3 times wider per season than any toughgrass variety currently sold in American garden centers. 3 times wider. In the dark. And then there is number 6. This one is the one that changes the math completely. It forms a carpet so tight and so low that a lawnmower becomes structurally useless. There is simply nothing tall enough to cut. Market gardeners in the Pacific Northwest use it as a living mulch between crop rows because it suppresses weeds better than black plastic sheeting. It smells like peppermint when it gets walked on. Children love it. Pollinators swarm it. And it costs less than a single bag of fertilizer to establish permanently. Permanently. Both of those plants are on this list. For everyone watching who has a quiet corner of yard that defeats everything she plants there, hit subscribe right now. Because this channel covers exactly this kind of forgotten, recoverable knowledge every single week. The first plant on this list is the one the chemical companies feared most. In the 1950s, a decision got made inside a boardroom that most American homeowners never heard about. Clover was reclassified as a weed. Not because it harmed the lawn. Not because it spread uncontrollably. Not because any gardener complained about it. Clover got reclassified because the new generation of broadleaf herbicides, the products these same companies were about to sell by the millions of gallons, could not tell the difference between clover and dandelion. So rather than reformulate the chemical, they reformulated the story. They changed what the word weed meant. And 60 years later, the average American homeowner pays to poison a plant that was actively repairing her soil for free. Microclover pulls nitrogen directly from the atmosphere and injects it into the ground beneath it. That is not a metaphor. That is a biological process called nitrogen fixation, and it is the same process commercial farmers pay thousands of dollars per acre to replicate with synthetic fertilizer. Microclover does it at no cost year after year, while spreading 8 to 12 inches per season in a low, tight mat that never exceeds 3 inches in height. Never needs mowing. Never needs feeding. The soil underneath it, after 2 seasons, tests richer than soil that has been chemically fertilized for a decade. Plant it once. Walk away. Come back to better dirt. Creeping time arrives alongside it like a co-conspirator. This plant spreads through every crack in a sidewalk, every dry, rocky slope, every sun-baked patch where grass burned to straw in August. It roots as it spreads. Each stem that touches soil becomes a new plant. By year 3, a single flat of creeping thyme planted along a walkway edge will have covered ground the size of a parking space, without a single intervention. Step on it. The oils release. The air around it shifts. It smells like a kitchen garden and a hillside in Provence at the same time. Both plants establish fastest from plugs rather than seed. 6-inch spacing. Full sun to partial shade. Water once a week for the first month. Then stop. After that, rain handles it. Here is what the chemical companies understood that most homeowners still do not. A yard that feeds itself is a yard that never buys fertilizer again. That is not a gardening tip. That is a financial threat to a multi-billion-dollar industry. The next plant on this list does not just survive where grass cannot. Takes over. There is a patch of dirt under the oldest tree in the yard. It has been there for years. Brown. Packed hard. Edged by exposed roots that have cracked every attempt at planting. Grass seed goes in every spring and comes up as nothing by June. Mulch gets laid down and blows off by August. Bare dirt stays bare. And every single summer, that patch sits there like an accusation, proof, in the mind of the person who owns it, that she simply cannot grow things in that spot. She was never the problem. The plant she was sold was the problem. Sweet woodruff is a ground cover native to European woodland floors. It evolved specifically for life beneath a closed canopy. Deep shade, dry root-choked soil, low nutrients, exactly the conditions that kill tough grass. In those conditions, sweet woodruff does not struggle. Coordinates. Each plant sends out horizontal runners that root as they travel, building a connected mat of star-shaped leaves 6 to 8 inches deep. In spring, it produces small white flowers across the entire surface of that mat. The bare patch under the oak becomes a woodland floor. The kind of floor that belongs in a botanical garden. Cornell University's cooperative extension program documented sweet woodruff spreading at a rate of 12 to 15 inches outward per season in partial to full shade conditions with 0 supplemental watering after establishment. 0. Plant it at the drip line of the tree where the roots begin. Space plugs 12 inches apart. Water for 3 weeks. Then leave it alone. By the second spring, the patch is covered. By the third, it needs a border to keep it from spreading further. That is not a weakness to manage. That is a feature to direct. For 15 years, millions of homeowners blamed themselves for a bare patch that was never their fault. They were sold the wrong plant for the wrong conditions by stores that profit from repeat failure. Sweet woodruff is patient. It does not need perfect conditions. It needs to be given a chance. But patience is not always available. Some yards need an aggressive answer right now. The next plant spreads with a ferocity that changes the entire calculation. Native sedge does not look dangerous. It looks like grass. Grows like grass, moves in the wind like grass. But it is not grass, and that distinction is the entire point. While Kentucky bluegrass requires full sun, weekly cutting, and consistent moisture to survive, native sedge thrives in the conditions that destroy it. Shade, clay soil, drought, foot traffic, drainage problems. Sedge handles all of it. It stays low 4 to 6 inches at full height, without a single pass of any mower. It roots so densely that established sedge lawns have been documented suppressing weed germination by over 70% compared to tofgrass plots in side-by-side university trials. 70% fewer weeds. No mowing. No chemical inputs. Half the water requirement of conventional grass. And here is where this list needs a pause, because this comes up in the comments every single week. Where does a person actually find quality native sedge plugs that are not mislabeled hybrid varieties at a big box store? The answer is that most big box retailers carry ornamental sedge, not native sedge, and the difference in performance is significant. Native plant nurseries and regional extension programs are the reliable sources. Links to trusted suppliers are in the description below for anyone who needs them. Now back to the list. Because what comes next is where this goes from practical to genuinely surprising. The next two plants are the fastest spreaders on this entire list. Not the most patient. Not the most shade tolerant. The fastest. One of them forms a barrier so dense that established invasive weeds physically run out of sunlight beneath it. The other one smells like a candy shop every time a shoe touches it. Both of them are already growing wild somewhere within 50 miles of almost every home in the continental United States. Nobody told her they were free for the taking. It is already spreading. Right now. This exact moment. In yards 3 blocks away, in highway medians, along creek banks and fence lines across 37 states. Creeping Jenny and Corsican mint are moving across the ground the way water moves across a table. Low. Fast, unstoppable, finding every gap, filling every bare space before anything else gets the chance. Creeping Jenny roots at every node. Every single point where a stem touches soil becomes a new plant. One flat of it placed along a slope in spring becomes full coverage by August. It runs bright chartreuse, almost electric green, and it does not stop at the edge of the garden bed. It does not respect borders. It does not negotiate. It simply covers. Corsican mint grows so densely that established weeds underneath it run out of light within a single season. It maxes out at 1 inch tall. 1 inch. A lawnmower rolling over it accomplishes nothing because there is nothing to cut. Step on it and the smell, sharp, clean peppermint, releases instantly into the air around it. Children track it into the house on their shoes. Pollinators find it from 50 yards away. Both plants establish from plugs in 4 to 6 weeks. Both spread without division, without feeding, without any intervention at all. Here is what nobody mentions at the garden center. Speed in a ground cover without boundaries is not a virtue. It is a warning. The next plant on this list proves exactly why. The tag at the garden center says, fast spreading ground cover. It does not say what comes next. Wild ginger moves. Not quickly enough to watch, but fast enough that by the second spring, it has crossed the garden border, edged under the fence, and started its quiet march into the neighbor's yard. It is beautiful the entire time. Heart-shaped leaves. Dense coverage. A rich, dark green that holds color even in August heat. It looks like a success story, until it becomes the yard's new problem. Wild ginger is not invasive in the technical sense. Native varieties belong to North American ecosystems. But planted without a root barrier or a defined containment edge, it demonstrates something the lawn care aisle never teaches. Speed without a defined boundary is just a weed with better marketing. The rule is simple. Any ground cover that spreads by underground rhizome, wild ginger, some mints, certain sedges, needs a physical border installed at planting. 4-inch edging, buried 6 inches down. Not decorative edging, structural edging. 1 season of discipline at planting saves 4 seasons of correction later. Speed is not the enemy. Carelessness is. But carelessness at the garden center runs much deeper than spacing. What comes next is the part of this list that the big box stores are counting on nobody to say out loud. The plant is on the shelf right now. Walk into any major home improvement store in America this weekend. Find the garden center. Look for the ground cover section. English ivy will be there. Vinca, sometimes labeled periwinkle, will be sitting right beside it. Both packaged in bright plastic containers. Both with photos of lush, rolling green coverage on the label. Both priced so reasonably that filling an entire slope with them costs less than a single visit to a landscaper. Both listed as invasive species in 32 states by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. English ivy does not just cover the ground. It climbs. It moves up tree trunks, adds weight to branches, and creates conditions that weaken and eventually kill mature trees. It crowds out native wildflowers and ferns along forest floors. It spreads by seed, carried by birds, into wild areas miles from where it was originally planted. The states of Oregon and Washington have placed it on their noxious weed lists. It is still legal to sell in both states. Vinca spreads by stem fragmentation. A single piece left on disturbed soil roots and starts a new colony. Removal requires complete excavation of the root system, a job that costs more per square foot than installing a patio. The choice is not between fast and slow. The choice is between responsible and reckless. Native alternatives exist for every condition these plants are sold to solve. Native pachysandra for shade, buffalo grass for slopes, Pennsylvania sedge for dry, difficult areas under trees. The garden center sells what moves product. It does not sell what belongs in the soil. Every gardener who knows the difference becomes someone the industry cannot profit from as easily. That knowledge has a cost. And the final two plants on this list are worth every penny of it. Roman chamomile hits the ground running. Plant it in May. By July, the mat is 3 inches deep and releases the smell of green apples every time a foot crosses it. By September of the second year, it has formed a continuous carpet dense enough to walk across barefoot. It blooms in small white daisy-like flowers from June through August, low, continuous, and so abundant that a single established patch attracts more pollinators per square foot than a standard flower bed 3 times its size. The data is specific. University of Vermont Extension trials recorded Roman chamomile suppressing weed emergence by 68% in plots measured over 2 growing seasons. 68% without herbicide, without landscape fabric, without any chemical input at all. The plant does it through dense canopy coverage, allelopathic root chemistry, and sheer competitive growth rate. It also does not need to be replaced. Ever. Divide it every 4 to 5 years and it renews itself. 1 purchase. 1 planting. Decades of coverage. Wild strawberry closes the list because nothing else earns that position. It feeds the yard and the household simultaneously. White flowers in spring. Small, intensely sweet fruit in June. Smaller than commercial strawberries, but more flavorful by a margin that is not subtle. After fruiting, the runners spread. Each runner sends out a daughter plant. Each daughter plant becomes a new fruiting crown the following spring. A 6-foot wide patch becomes 12 feet wide by the 3rd season, entirely through its own reproduction. Birds eat the fruit. Ground beetles shelter under the leaves. The root system holds slope soil in place better than erosion fabric. And unlike every other plant on this list, wild strawberry hands something back to the person who planted it. Something she can hold in her palm. Something she can taste. Plant both. Roman chamomile along the walkways and borders. Wild strawberry on any open slope or sunny edge. Water for 1 month. Step back. The yard takes it from there. And what the yard becomes, that is the part worth staying for. 3 years from now, it is a Tuesday morning. The neighborhood is loud. 2 doors down, a mower engine cranks twice before it catches. Across the street, a leaf blower runs even though it is June. The sound of the American weekend, gasoline and obligation, moves through the air like it always has. But she is sitting on the porch with coffee. Her yard is not perfect. It is not uniform. It does not look like the photograph on a fertilizer bag. It looks like something alive. Creeping thyme edges the front walk in purple bloom. Microclover patches carry bees from one end of the yard to the other. The slope under the old oak, the one that defeated her for 15 years, is covered in sweet woodruff, white-flowered, deep green, asking for nothing. Wild strawberry runs along the southern border. She picked a handful last week and ate them standing in the yard in the morning light. She has not run a mower in 2 years. She has not bought a bag of fertilizer in 3. The soil beneath all of it is darker than it was. Looser, richer, alive in ways that soil under tough grass simply is not, because tough grass does not repair the ground it grows in. It only takes from it. What she built is not a lawn. It is an argument, a quiet one, made in thyme and clover and chamomile and wild fruit. An argument that says the standard was never worth the cost, and that the ground, given the right plants and enough time, remembers exactly what it was before anyone told it to be something else. The soil remembers. It has always remembered. The only question that ever mattered was whether she was ready to listen. If this story moved something in you, share it with one person who is still pushing that mower every Saturday. Leave a comment below and tell this community which of these 10 plants you are putting in the ground first. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell, because the next story coming to this channel is one that could change how you see every inch of ground around your home. Do not miss it.